frostbitten fear, the haunting of Black Peak. The air was crisp and biting as the group of friends arrived at the base of Black Peak, their excitement palpable despite the chill. They had been planning this ski trip for months, eager to escape the monotony of everyday life and immerse themselves in the exhilarating world of winter sports. As they unloaded their gear from the car and gazed up at the towering peak before them, a sense of awe washed over them. The mountain seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky, its slopes cloaked in a pristine blanket of snow that sparkled in the early morning light. "Wow, this place is incredible," exclaimed Sarah, her breath forming a cloud of vapor in the frosty air. "I can't believe we're actually here." "Yeah, it's like something out of a postcard," agreed Alex, his eyes shining with excitement. "I can't wait to hit the slopes." With their skis and snowboards in tow, they made their way to the cozy cabin they had rented for the week, nestled at the foot of the mountain. The cabin was rustic but charming, with a crackling fire burning in the stone hearth and thick fur rugs scattered across the wooden floors. As they settled in and unpacked their belongings, the anticipation continued to build. They spent the afternoon exploring the surrounding trails, marveling at the breathtaking views and testing their skills on the slopes. But as the sun began to sink below the horizon and the temperature dropped, a sense of unease settled over the group. The woods seemed to grow darker and more foreboding with each passing moment, and the distant howl of the wind sent shivers down their spines. That night, as they gathered around the crackling fire in the cabin's cozy living room, the atmosphere was charged with excitement. They laughed and joked as they shared stories of past adventures and made plans for the days ahead, the warmth of the fire driving away the chill that lingered in the air. But as the hours ticked by and the fire burned low, a sense of unease began to creep into the room. Shadows danced on the walls, twisting and contorting into sinister shapes that seemed to watch them with malevolent eyes. "Did you guys hear that?" whispered Emily, her voice barely audible over the howling wind outside. "Hear what?" asked Tom, turning to look at her with furrowed brows. "I don't know," replied Emily, her eyes wide with fear. It sounded like someone walking outside. The group fell silent, listening intently to the faint sound of footsteps echoing in the night. But when they looked out the window, there was nothing there but darkness and swirling snow. "It's probably just an animal," said Alex, trying to sound reassuring. "There are plenty of them out here in the woods." But despite his words, a sense of unease lingered in the air, and none of them could shake the feeling that they were being watched. As the days passed and the group ventured further into the mountains, the sense of unease that had plagued them since their arrival only seemed to grow stronger. Strange things began to happen with increasing frequency. Ski equipment would go missing, footsteps would echo in the night, and eerie shadows would flicker in the corners of their vision. At first, they tried to brush off the strange occurrences, attributing them to the wildness of the mountain and their own overactive imaginations. But as the disappearances began, they could no longer deny that something sinister was at play. It started with Sarah, who failed to return from a solo run down one of the more challenging slopes. At first, they assumed she had simply taken a wrong turn and gotten lost in the wilderness, but when she still hadn't returned by nightfall, they knew something was wrong. Frantic with worry, they searched the surrounding area for any sign of her, calling out her name into the darkness in hopes that she would hear them and return safely. But as the hours passed and the temperature continued to drop, their hopes began to fade. By morning, there was still no sign of Sarah, and the group was forced to accept the grim reality that she was gone. "We have to go for help," said Emily, her voice trembling with fear. "We can't just leave her out there alone." But as they prepared to set out on foot to find help, another member of their group went missing. This time, it was Tom, who had ventured out into the woods to search for Sarah on his own. With two of their friends now gone without a trace, the remaining members of the group knew they had to act fast if they were to have any hope of finding them alive. As they searched the surrounding area for any sign of their missing friends, a sense of dread settled over the group like a thick blanket of snow. The woods seemed to whisper with an otherworldly chill, and strange shapes lurked in the darkness just beyond the edge of their vision. Each night, as they huddled together in the safety of the cabin, they could feel the presence of something ancient and malevolent lurking in the shadows. Whispers echoed through the halls, and icy drafts seemed to seep through the very walls themselves. "We have to get out of here," said Emily, her voice shaking with fear. "We can't stay in this cabin another minute." But despite their best efforts to leave, they found themselves trapped on the mountain by a fierce blizzard that raged outside, blocking their path and cutting them off from the outside world. As the days passed and their supplies dwindled, the group grew increasingly desperate. They knew they were not alone in the cabin. Something dark and malevolent lurked in the shadows, hungering for their souls. Now, as they huddled together in the dying embers of the fire, they knew that their only hope for survival was to unravel the dark secret that haunted these frozen slopes before it claimed them all. With each passing moment, the shadows grew deeper, and the mountain itself seemed to conspire against them. But despite the overwhelming odds stacked against them, the group refused to give up hope. Armed with nothing but their wits and their determination, they set out to uncover the truth behind the terror of Black Peak. They combed through old journals and whispered legends, searching for any clue that might lead them to salvation. And then, just when all hope seemed lost, they stumbled upon a long-forgotten cave hidden deep within the heart of the mountain. Inside, they found ancient runes etched into the walls, their meaning lost to time. As they deciphered the cryptic symbols, a sense of dread washed over them. They had stumbled upon the resting place of an ancient evil, a creature of darkness that had been sealed away centuries ago by those who feared its power. But now, with the barriers weakened by the passage of time, the creature had begun to stir once more, hungering for the souls of the living. With no other choice but to confront the creature head-on, the group prepared to make their final stand armed with makeshift weapons and a fierce determination to survive. They ventured into the depths of the cave, ready to face whatever horrors awaited them. And as they stood face to face with the ancient evil that lurked within, they knew that their fate and the fate of all who had fallen victim to its icy grasp rested in their hands. In the end, it was a battle for survival unlike any they had ever faced. Against all odds, the group emerged victorious, banishing the ancient evil back into the depths of the mountain and freeing the souls of those it had claimed. As they made their way down the slopes of Black Peak, battered but alive, they knew that they would carry the scars of their ordeal with them for the rest of their lives. But they also knew that they had faced their fears head-on and emerged stronger for it. And though the legend of Black Peak would live on for generations to come, the true story of what had transpired on those frozen slopes would remain known only to those who had lived through it. For the group of friends who had ventured into the heart of darkness and emerged victorious, Black Peak would always hold a special place in their hearts, a reminder of the strength of the human spirit and the bonds of friendship that could never be broken.